we actually got into trying to find healthy chocolate because of my mother. My mother died last summer in July of 2012 from natural causes, it must be said. But just before that, about 6 months before that, we'd noticed that she was starting to have really quite serious memory problems, cognition problems. And in fact, her doctor had confirmed to us that she was in the very early stages of Alzheimer's, which was just a horrible prospect for all of us, and for Mama's even more than for us. And my mom was really very much, she loved chocolate. One of her favorite sayings was, "Honey, if it ain't chocolate, it ain't dessert." And she ate, despite having grown up or lived with my dad, who was a food broker, and we had very high quality chocolates in the house all the time. Yum. She would eat crummy chocolate, you know, from the supermarket, just full of all sorts of additives and sugars and not even real cocoa butter, the horrible vegetable oils that are full of trans fats and things like that. So anyway, we started doing some research and discovered that Alzheimer's is beginning to be considered as type 3 diabetes, and has a lot to do with the brain's inability, because of having been overloaded with sugar, to process, you're just going to fill up the whole thing, look at that, to process glucose for its functioning. And therefore, it seemed like one of the best ways to get Mom to reduce her sugar consumption would be to come up with chocolate, which she loved, that would be actually healthy instead of harmful. And that's what started us on this journey.
And you want to talk about the doctor in Tampa and Alzheimer's and coconut oil?
During the course of this research, we discovered a woman who's very active in the field of finding cures for Alzheimer's, because her husband, at a very early age, in his early 50s, developed quite severe case of Alzheimer's, and he actually carries the gene for it. That's not just an aging issue. And she found some references. She's a doctor. Her name is Dr. Mary Newport. She's written a book. You can find it on Amazon. And she started him at the time. They do a test for Alzheimer's. One of the early tests they do for Alzheimer's to ask the patient to draw a clock. And Dr. Newport's husband, the first attempt he made at this, there was a little squiggle here on the paper, a little squiggle there on the paper, a little squiggle there on the paper, and maybe a number there, and a number there, and a number there. And that was as close as he could come. When asked to, you know, draw a picture of a clock, that's the best that he could do. And her research had led her to think about, to consider the possibility that coconut oil would provide a healthier fuel for the brain. And she started adding rather large amounts of coconut oil to his diet. And within, I could be wrong on the timescales here, but I think it was within 4 weeks, he was again asked to draw a clock, and this time what he drew looked like, kind of like a bicycle wheel. It had a little dot in the middle. It had spokes going out, and there were 12 spokes, at the end of which were the 12 numbers in the correct order. And 2 weeks after that, he actually drew a perfectly normal clock. Now this is, you know, this is not to say he's fully cured. He used to be an accountant, and he is not able to work still. And she has added something I considered putting into this chocolate batch but didn't, something called MCT oil to his diet as well. And that stands for medium chain triglycerides, which is a kind of concentrated form of the good stuff that's in coconut oil. And her own anecdotal evidence, her experience with her husband, is she gives him a combination of the coconut oil and the MCTs, and that it seems the MCTs start to work more quickly, and his cognitive functioning is great, or much, much improved. But the coconut oil has a more sustained effect. This is feeling a lot more of this than I thought it would.